Hello guys, my name is Engineer Holiday. We want to talk about a question on friction. And the first question for this video is, I want to deal with some technical objective question. This one say, which of the following statement about friction is not correct? That means we are actually looking for the one that is not correct. Others are correct, but there is one particular option that is not correct. Now, option A, cars are less likely to skid on wet than on a dry road. Now, when we say cars are less likely to skid on a wet, it's a lie. First of all, cars are less likely to skid. That means on a wet road, from the language, car skid less on a wet than on a dry road. Underline that word first. Now it says nails hold board together by friction. Yes, that's correct. Now this one says limited friction is directly proportional to the force acting between them. Limited friction is directly proportional to the force acting. The force acting between them is what we call between the two surfaces is not what we call normal reaction. So it's correct. So F, limited friction is directly proportional to normal reaction. So they don't want to talk about normal reaction. That's why they say proportional to the force acting between two surfaces. So that force acting between two surfaces is normal reaction. Don't forget, there is no normal reaction without two surfaces being in contact. If there is no contact, no normal reaction. D says sliding friction is less than limited friction. I think that one is also correct. Yes, sliding friction is less than limiting friction. But greater than rolling friction. So in rhyming, what I will say is that sliding, that means limiting is greater than sliding, sliding is greater than rolling friction. So take note of that. That one is correct. Then the last one, lubrication reduces friction. Yes, very correct. When you oil a particular moving part of a machine, it tends to reduce the friction. Now, so the wrong answer to this one is that is not correct. Not correct is cars are less likely to skid on a wet road. No, cars skid more on a wet road than a dry road. So option A is the wrong answer. Now let's go to number 2. Please, before we solve this question, I will advise you watch the introduction to friction, so that where I explain some theoretical things about friction. And I believe once you watch that video, come back to this question, it will be clear. Number 2 says the friction which operate when one solid surface slide over another. Now, when one surface slide over another is what we call dynamic friction, or we call it what we call the sliding friction. If that one is not there, you can also call it a kinetic friction. Kinetic friction. Let's take from that. But note, when one surface and the other are stationary, or when the body is just in surfaces that are in contact, it is just about to move. That means the two bodies in contact, they said a statement that when two bodies are placed in contact with one another and they are at rest, what do we say such body is undergoing? We say static friction. So when I place a book on a table now, for instance, and that book is at rest, or that book is just about to move, we say a statement of static friction has been mentioned there. Don't forget, for friction to occur, it must occur between what surface that are rough surfaces. Now, so solid friction is what? Combination of both static friction or limiting friction, dynamic friction and rolling friction. So static and limiting are the same language. So that means B and C are not even part of the answer. Solid friction is combination of the three friction I've just mentioned. Go and watch my video introduction to it. But option D is the answer. Option D is the answer for that option one or number two questions. So please take note of that. I've just told you another name for dynamic friction is what? Sliding or kinetic friction. Now number three says which of the following is not true of friction between two solid surfaces? Number one says the friction between two solid surfaces is greater when one of the object is moving than when they are both stationary. No, when they are both stationary, we call it a what? A static friction or a limiting friction. And when one of them of the object is moving over the other, for example, can be what? Either rolling or sliding. And these two I've just mentioned, if the object is moving and the object that is moving is circular, we call it a rolling friction. But if what? The body is sliding like a box, is sliding, one slide over the other, it says what? Dynamic friction. So stationary bodies, when two bodies are stationary, is far higher than when one of the objects slide over the other. So this one is wrong. Now, this one says frictional force between two rough surfaces is greater than between two smooth surfaces. Quite correct. In fact, very correct, not quite correct. The frictional force between two surfaces is independent of area. Yes, I told you that two factors upon which your frictional force depend on, according to friction law, is what? Law of friction is got to what? Mu R. It depends on the nature of the surfaces in contact or the material of the surfaces in contact, and also depend on what? The normal reaction or the surfaces that are meant to hold each other in contact. So that is what? The force that hold two surfaces in contact. That is normal reaction. So number option C is what? Correct, because it's independent. It does not depend on area of the surface in contact. Neither does it depend on velocity or relative velocity of the body in contact. Frictional force depends on the types of material when form what? Or that form the surfaces. Sorry. Frictional force depends on the types of material that form the surfaces which are in contact. I think that is the right language to use. So this one is correct. Okay, the last one says what? Frictional force is proportional to the normal reaction. Yes, I think that is law of what? And if you want to make it better, we say limiting frictional force is proportional to the normal reaction. So that is just that. Please take note of that. Very important to know that. So this one is also correct. The answer to that question is option what? A. That is not true. Number 4. The limiting frictional force between two surfaces depends on dash. I gave you a shortcut. I told you it depends on nature of the surfaces in contact, and also what? Depends on what? The normal reaction. That means the force holding what? The two bodies in contact. Normal reaction. These are the two parameters upon which friction depends on. So we say that depends on normal reaction. Yes, correct. Between two surfaces. The area of the surface, no. The relative velocity between surfaces, no. I think I've mentioned that before, so I'm not going to waste time on that. The nature of the surface in contact, yes. So the answer is 1 and 4. 1 and 4. Let's go to number 2. We say number 5 rather. So which of the following is not correct about a moving vehicle coming to rest as a result of dash? That means a moving vehicle come to rest as a result of that. So which of the following explanation given here is not correct? They say the hot gases coming out from the exhaust pipe. So that does not make any sense to me. They said what the frictional force between the brake the body does not come to rest because of the exhaust pipe. It does not make sense. You understand? The exhaust, if the exhaust pipe does not have anything to do with brake, for a body to come to rest, there must be an interaction between number one, there must be a friction between the brake and the what and the wheel of the car, and also there will be also interaction between the tire and the road or the surface in contact. Those are the two factors that will affect for a car to come to rest. Number one, the gripping on the tire. If you check your tires of the car or the vehicle, you see that they put a line in there to enable the line, all those line is filed off. You understand? Now you would notice that there will not be proper gripping between the ground, the road, and the tire. So I believe just this question is trying to balance two things. Number one, to talk about the friction between the wheel and the road or the surface in contact, and also friction between the brake and the wheel. So let's go to the option. This one say the friction between the brake and the wheel. Yes, this one makes sense. So I said the frictional force between the tires and the surfaces on which the surface is moving. The tire and the surface on which the surface is moving. On which the tires is moving. Sorry, should be on which the tires is moving. So the frictional force between the tire and the surface on which the tire is what? Moving. So that means surface is where the tire is moving. So it also depends on frictional force between that. Number D says what? The resistance of the strong wind blowing against the vehicle. Yes, so most of the time we wind up whenever we are driving high speed, maybe like 120 kilometers per hour. Why do you wind up? Because what the wind there can blow, it can even affect the way the man will be driving on it. It can move, it can change the direction of the steering. So sometimes we roll up so that we can withstand, the car can withstand that strong wind blowing against the vehicle. So there's a resistance against what is strong. That's why it's not advisable that when you are running on a high speed, you match the brake like that. No. If you do that on a high speed, you will turn the car upside down, and before you know it, a very serious accident has occurred at that moment. Now this one now is what? The force applied in the opposite direction on the motion of the car. Yes, actually frictional force is that force that applied opposite to the direction of motion. So that is, we are only explaining frictional force here. We know that frictional force opposite motion. So all these ones are correct. The answer to that question is A. Now I've answered that one. Let's go to number 6. Number 6. It said when the brake in a car are applied, the frictional force on the tire is dash. Now don't forget, the frictional force on the tire is what? Is an advantage to the car, because if there is no friction, the car cannot easily stop. Have you ever checked when you pour oil on the road before and a car is running through? If the car has to pass, the driver has to slow down. Why you have to slow down is because at that point there is no proper friction between, the friction has been reduced, let me put it, to the minimum. Don't forget, a perfectly smooth surface, as I explained in the introduction part of the friction we did in this channel, is 0, while a perfectly rough surface is 1. Go and watch that video again. So now they say it's a disadvantage because it's in direction of motion. No, frictional force can never be in the direction of motion. It's always what? In the opposite direction. So that statement is even wrong. There are two wrong statements here: disadvantage and same direction. Number B says what? B option says a disadvantage because it is it is in the opposite direction. Yes, it's in the opposite direction, quite correct. But disadvantage, no, I disagree. So option C is B is wrong. This one says it's an advantage, correct? Because it is in the same direction of the car. Wrong. That's the same direction in the direction of the car. Because it's in that, no, it can never be in the direction of the car. It's always in what opposite direction to the motion of the car. And it's an advantage. Take note of that. So it's an advantage, correct? Let's check the second. Because it is in the opposite direction of the motion of the car. Correct. I think this D is actually correct and completely correct for the question 6. I believe you understand that. Number 7. Say, which of the following could be effectively used to reduce friction? Use the word effectively. Better. Now, water cannot be used to reduce friction. So it's not advisable. You cannot use water to lubricate your machine. Not done. Petrol, no. This one cannot work. This one cannot work. Kerosene, no. I think the best one for you to use is grease or using oil. Oil is not here, or use grease. They are very good and very effective. So D is the answer. Now the next one says the frictional force between two bodies. A, act so as to oppose what? Yes. B, depends on normal reaction between two surfaces. Yes. I believe I've talked about those ones before. It's relatively independent of the area in contact. Yes. That one is what? Is correct also. That means A is correct, B is correct, C is correct. Has all these characteristics. Yes. So I will go for D. Number 9. This has said a brick at rest on a horizontal table is pulled by a horizontal cord as shown in the figure above. The force of friction on the brick. Now, note this. As the force, in as much this body is at rest, please take note of that. In as much the body is at rest, the force of friction is proportional to what? To the pulling force. Please take note of that one. Now, when a body is at rest or stationary or just about to move, it means it's under a limiting frictional force. Go and check this one. This my video on friction. I say frictional force at that point is equal to the pulling force and equal to what? Mu R. Go and check so that you can get this thing clearly. So that means what does proportionality means to you? When we say something is proportional, it means that increase in friction equal to increase in pulling force, provided the body is at rest. And that is what you should notice here. Number 1. Immediately the body starts pulling, or this brick starts sliding, then if the pulling force is now higher, that means at this point now they are equal. So but when the pulling force P, let's say we call it P, is now greater than friction, what will happen to the brick? It will slide. In that case, we will say that pulling force is higher than frictional force at that point, because it's under a sliding friction at that point. One and it will have an acceleration. So let's look at option A. It says increases if the pull increases, but the brick does not move. Yes, I think that one is correct. You ensure that the brick does not move. In as much the brick does not move, the frictional force is equal to the pulling force. In other words, the frictional force increase lead to increase in pull force. Now, this is directly horizontal to the right. No, it cannot be horizontal to the right because motion will be on the right. Probably will be on the right. Frictional force will be on the left. As I show you. This is what was not given to us. I have to show you to show that frictional force will be opposing the pulling force. It's not because pulling force want to create a motion, and what does friction does is act so as to oppose what? relative motion of two bodies in contact where one is about to slide over the other. C decreases if identical brick is placed on the first. Don't forget frictional force will increase. No, know why? Because when you place another brick on this one, reaction will increase, and once reaction increase, frictional force will increase. So when you have more load on a particular body, on this body now, you have an idea, you place another one there, automatically there is more contact, then reaction will increase. And when reaction increase, what happens to frictional force? It will also increase. So decrease the frictional force if an identical load is placed. No, to increase, that one does not work. Is zero if the brick is pulled harder or hard enough to make it slide? No, I think that one is wrong. The answer to that question, the only correct answer I will choose here is the A. Number 10, the coefficient of friction between two perfectly smooth surfaces or smooth surfaces is is 0. For perfectly rough surface is 1. Please remember that. Number 11, the last question. The surface of what? Of a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt are mostly used for carrying loads. And most of the time we advise that the conveyor belt should be rough, not smooth. Because if it's smooth, the body will slide easily. So that means that the surface of the conveyor belt are made to be rough so as to enable them carry a load. That's option A. Is correct. Makes them stronger. No. It even make them weaker. Protect them while carrying load. No. It makes the load slide away. Prevent the load from slipping. I think the option A is a better answer. It enables them to carry more loads because the more friction, the more they can hold the body, grip the body. Thank you very much. God bless you. I believe you just go through the level question and go through our introduction of friction. You get everything. God bless you.